What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey's YouTube channel, episode 38 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Icavone, and I'm joined, as always, by Jack Smith. If you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you give us a subscribe, hit that alert so you never miss a show. And for all the podcast listeners out there, I owe you guys an apology. I didn't get the episode out as a podcast last week. I actually deleted the RSS feed or the recording for the episode. So the only way you could hear last week's episode is on YouTube. So hopefully you guys figured that out and give us a watch over there on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, though, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This week's show will be getting out on those outlets, so we won't make that mistake again. We apologize. So you guys are the first in line when newest episodes drop. And then attention, hockey fans and golf lovers. Let me get the barcode up while I do the read here. Jack's wearing that hat. He looks damn good in it too, I must say. Okay, coming at you. HW Hockey has just dropped the perfect blend of style and performance. Our brand new HW Hockey golf hats. Whether you're hitting the links or just repping your favorite hockey brand off the ice, these hats are designed for comfort, breathability, and that clean classic look. With a sleek fit and embroidered HW Hockey logo, you'll be turning heads while taking putts. Don't miss out. Keep it high and wide all summer long before they're gone. Venmo at HW Hockey. Scan that barcode there and make sure to send over your mailing address so we can ship out your HW Hockey gear. Hopefully you guys got that barcode. I'll leave it up for another couple seconds before we get into tonight's episode. I was going to say, Jack, it's on the lighter side in terms of topics, but it's draft season. So there's topics galore. As
yes.
Of course, we're going to get into some draft talk. You put it out another outstanding show towards the end of last week. I assume everybody that's watching this watched your show. We had Russ Cohen on earlier this week to sort of recap the combine. There's some, maybe some names that maybe if they weren't on the radar previously, we can talk about maybe later on in tonight's show. But yeah, so let's kind of dive into this here. We could start with JR. Posting the comment here, hearing we're not going for Haig. Jack, we were kind of talking pre-show about that. What did you see on Nicholas Haig there?
Yeah, Kevin Kurz basically came out and said, I really haven't heard much about that and kind of got it confirmed. Maybe not 100% confirmed, but basically confirmed that they are not going that route. And whether that's a smokescreen or not, I can't say for sure. But I'm kind of glad. It is not that I dislike the player or anything. I just feel like if they're going to do something in this offseason in the trade areas, I would hope it'd be something different than a bottom pairing defenseman. Even though he's some youth, winning credibility and size, I just feel like they have other aspects they need to attack this offseason than something like that. I'm like, let's not waste resources there right now. Let's focus on potential centers, younger players, star players, particularly those names that are being dangled, something like that. Even if they don't get them, I'd rather explore those options. And then, of course, the draft itself before we're looking to get some size and for a third pairing defenseman, which is like, isn't that what Hunter McDonald's going to be? So, for me, it's like, good. Like, let's move on to something that actually matters.
Yeah. And it's, it's that time of year. It's the off season. I'm just kind of glad the Flyers name. It seems like every time a player's name comes out, whether it be Rossi, I haven't really heard them connected to Robertson. I think that's more of fans kind of touting that up, but hopefully they are in some way. But it seems like every time a name comes up that's available, Flyers are connected in some way, shape, or form. Another one that's come up, this one also from the Western Conference of the Dallas Stars. Maybe it's not Jason Robertson, but Mason Marchment's name came up today. I believe Anthony DeMarco reported that the Flyers would have interest if Dallas looked at moving him. Is this a player that you would hope to fly? I don't know if anybody really hopes that they go after Marchment, but is this a player that you're like, all right, cool, this is a guy we can use?
I suppose he'll turn 30 in a week. So it's not like he really fits the timeline as far as contending, but he could be a stopgap guy. Again, not something I'm interested in giving up any kind of serious assets for. But he's big, 6'5", left winger. They like size, particularly up front now. if he's available and gettable for a decent contract and price, then sure. If they're just trying to shed some salary out there, I'll take a guy like that. He's been in the league plenty. He's been in a winning organization for quite some time. So, I mean, I'm not against that. But again, I'm not giving up anything close to significant for it. But if we could get him, then sure, absolutely. Size up front, a pure left winger, all for it.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't realize he was 6'5". I thought he was kind of like one of those 6'1", 6'2" guys. It was a little kind of a bowling ball there. He's consistent points-wise, 40, 50 points, it seems. 53 points in 81 games last year. And then he's scored 47 points twice in his career. He's only played a full season once. Well, he played 81 games last year. So I think it's fair to say maybe he's a little injury prone. I don't know. But this is a guy that, I don't think anyone's Marchment's not high on anyone's wish list. But if they found a way to bring him in and the price was right, they could use a guy like Mason Marchment. Fan of the player, knows how to play in the playoffs. It doesn't rack up points in the playoffs, which is fine. But this is a guy that can use maybe on the third line, something like that. And maybe he flexes into the second line here and there.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a style of player they don't currently have on the roster or in the pipeline. So, I mean, again, I don't see him as a part of the future, but they have banged the drum about how they want to get size. So, again, if it's not going to cost you much, sure, why not? Here's a good question here, Jimmy. And that's okay. Any draft questions, send it my way, please. This is Vineet. Vineet always asks intelligent questions. Evening, fellows. If Hagens or Martone are both there at 6, very possible Frondell showing well at the combine and Utah liking Brady Markin. Who do you go with? For me, it's Hagens or bust. It's going to take – I don't know if the draft could fall away where Hagens is available at 6, and I want to go with the other – Misa. If Hagens and Misa fell to 6, that's the one way that I'm not taking Hagens. For me, it's Hagens. And I know Martone is more of a sexy pick, but again, Hagens, center, falls to you all day. And I know Martone is a guy they took out for dinner. Brady Martin's another guy they took out for dinner. And somebody mentioned it earlier in the chat. Jake O'Brien was the other name they took out to dinner. Now, a really interesting question counter to this, because I think Hagens isn't getting past Nashville. Who would I take if, say, Martone and Jake O'Brien were there? That's a very realistic option. And while I think Martone may be the better player in the long run, I do think they take Jake O'Brien. I think they really like Jake O'Brien. I think one of the only reasons they had dinner with Martone is because they're like, look, this guy may fall to 6. Let's familiarize ourselves with him. I don't think he's somebody they had circled. They needed to grab. They're looking at centers as they should be. But if there's a scenario where they don't like who's available and Martone is available, they may wind up taking him. But for me, very few names you could put next to Hagens for me to choose the other name. So just to keep in mind.
Yeah, for me, if I got to choose between Hagens and Martone there, that's tough, right? Because Martone could very well, have one of the better careers. I think of potentially the draft class. Like some people are comparing him to like maybe a Brady Tkachuk kind of career, things like that. And it's like, well, do we want to miss out on a guy like that? Good leadership, big body, work in progress, going to fill out some more. You look at the Flyers roster. I know he's a wing, but they could use some of these bigger guys. And then obviously, they got where they are in the standings because they need a center. So if Hagens is there, it's really tough. But I think I would go Hagens as well. And I wouldn't have said it's not. I wouldn't have said it was as close maybe a week or so ago. But as we get closer to the draft and some of these guys get talked up and you read a little bit more, you watch a little bit more. I think the Flyers have. So like for me, Hagens is a 2C. However, we've seen, if you put a guy with 2C skill in a 1C role with players like Michkov, with players like Konechny, Tippett, I'm leaving somebody out here. Who's the other guy I just had in mind? Forrester. He can produce at a 1C level. Like we saw it with Sean Couturier, right? Like offensively, Sean Couturier is probably 2C at best, but playing with Claude Giroux, Jake Voracek, guy puts up first back-to-back 70-point, 30-goal seasons since John LeClair. You know what I mean? So maybe Hagens is topping out around a 60-point player, but you put him with guys like Michkov, Konechny, whoever else, all of a sudden you have a 70, 75-point guy type thing is all I'm saying. So I think I would go Hagens. And part of it is I am choosing position, I think, over I'm drafting Hagens because I need the position, right? Like if the skill's close enough, I'm going to take the center over the wing is how my mind's working right now. Jack, what do you think?
Well, I've always been a proponent of best player available. In my opinion, Hagens is the best player available.
Okay.
Any play center. I think him being the number one, supposed to go number one coming into this draft season, and how college went for him, I think that was just like a step back. I don't think it's who he is. I think that Schaefer looks fantastic, but he really hasn't played a whole lot of games. Misa put up those video game type numbers, so he's obviously going to go high, but he may be best served as a winger. We'll find out. Hagens, he's going to be a center. I think he's going to have a much better college season. He had a good season. It's not like he had a bad season. He just didn't freak out that, your number one overall picks typically do. That doesn't mean he can't be, a stud at the NHL level playing with Michkov. So, like, for me, he's a center. He's a true center. And he's a playmaking center. And he shines in the moment. And that's something this team hasn't had since, Giroux obviously has at times. Briere, but not too many guys come to Philly who can do that. So I would love to have a center like that playing with Michkov. So for me, it's definitely going to be Hagens. And then, O'Brien's name gets brought up because they took him out to dinner, and one of many players. So they ain't taking Martin at 6. And if they do, I'm going to have quite a rant. But and there's something there with Utah as well. Maybe we'll get into that in a bit. Yeah. But there's two, you see the Morgan Frost comparisons. I think Vinny had brought that up. Somebody else said that too. I don't want to and it does make me a little bit nervous because of how things went with Frost.
I don't see that though.
Just look at it this way. Like, he has his talent. It's like, can he put it all together at the NHL level is essentially what it boils down to. But Frost was a projected early second round player who we traded Braden Shen and got a late first and took him with. This guy, O'Brien, could go anywhere from 6 to 9. Really, if he drops past that, somebody's getting a hell of a player, So, I think that right there tells you the difference between O'Brien and Frost. So, and 2017 wasn't exactly regarded as a stud draft, at least going into it, much like this draft. So, I don't think it's that either.
I'm going to assume the comparison is, very maybe very intelligent offensively, but when I watch O'Brien, and I didn't watch Frost play in the OHL, so I can only go based off what I saw in the NHL, and maybe that's not fair. But when I watch O'Brien, there's like a killer instinct in him or something. I'm not sure how to describe, but at the NHL level, I didn't really see that with Frost, and I know they're playing different competitions, so that's maybe not fair. And at least in the games that I watch with O'Brien, he works back defensively, gets through the neutral zone quick. I know he's got to grow into his frame. Seems to have pretty good hockey IQ, and I know it's a trait of all these players. Whenever you look up scouting reports, it's great hockey sense, great hockey IQ, and it's like no shit, right? But when I watch O'Brien, I'm like, this guy is a pure playmaker, right? And like we're saying with Hagens here, if they're put in a situation where O'Brien is maybe the pick, I'm perfectly okay with it. I think if you can build this guy up, I don't think this is a player that you put on the Flyers right away. I think you kind of go the Luchenko route with him, let him fill out into his body. Maybe he goes, I'm not sure what's going on with him next year, if he's going to college or, what his situation is. Maybe he goes to college, grows into his man body a little bit, and then in another year or two, this is a guy maybe you plug in with a Michkov. Michkov's all of a sudden scoring 40, 45 goals. Jay O'Brien sitting there with 20 goals, 60 assists, something like that. That's kind of how I see O'Brien. But maybe the people comparing him to Frost have watched Frost in the OHL, and maybe I'm missing out on that,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little smoke there, but I don't really see it either. And I'm hoping that you kind of called it that factor that for us, it killer instinct, but it wasn't killer instinct. I'm hoping when he gets to the NHL, if he still brings that, I'm hoping it's just like the it factor, because some players haven't.
Right. That's kind of what it is. Yeah.
Sometimes they don't have enough skill to like really benefit, but some guys just get it and they understand it, and that would do dividends for this team. And the Flyers obviously really like him. Like they may have taken more guys out to dinner. I may be blowing this out of proportion more than it is, but it's something to take note of. And it's like he's like the one guy on their list besides Martin that makes sense to go at 6 that you could live with. And he's a center, so it's like, not sure how the draft is going to fall. You're hearing a lot of different things from different scouts, depending on whose quote you read. And a lot of it's anonymous. I think The Athletic did something like that. A lot of just random anonymous quotes from GMs and scouts. And you should see the difference between all the players. It's unbelievable. This draft is going to be wild. We think it's going to go a certain way. We think it's outlandish to take somebody at a certain position like Martin at 6. But like, who knows? Who ultimately knows? I'm hoping we see some crazy fireworks probably after starting at the 3rd pick. And we'll see who falls our way. And maybe there's a trade. I doubt it, but you never know. Utah's, throwing a lot of smoke. But it sounds like no matter what, as long as they don't get like too into their own heads, they're going to get a hell of a player at 6.
Yeah. And like, yeah, like you just said it. Like if Desnoyers is there, who, according to Russ, seems to think that Desnoyers is the top of the Flyers list. We haven't really heard a lot of like smoke or whatever from the Flyers and Desnoyers, so maybe they're trying to keep it under wraps or whatever. Right. I mean, there's an obvious connection there, but I'd be happy with Desnoyers. I'd be happy with Higgins. Would happy with Frundell. If somehow they end up taking Martone, I'd be okay with it, but I would be, less thrilled. Like this would be a player that, would have to grow on me, because we know that they need centers, and that's all. That's the only reason why it would have to grow on me. Would be happy with O'Brien.
Vinny, don't do it. Don't do it. Sorry to cut you off here, but who's that? He knows the answer to this question, but he said, who's the guy that everyone is comparing Brady Martin to? The guy that might win the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Are they comparing him to Sam Bennett?
Well, I mean, there is comparisons there, especially that one shift where he like body checked 2 people and then scored the goal. I mean, and he's got like 14 goals in this playoffs. I think he's a favorite. I think he's a favorite at this point, but when Sam Bennett was in the like number 1C role, it didn't go so well. In the role he's in now with Florida, it's perfect. It's perfect for him. And I would love to get that guy one day, but we still need the 1C. And Sam Bennett might get 10, 11 million this year, which is wild. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's having a ridiculous season in playoffs, but he's playing with the best team in the league with a hell of
I keep seeing that, and I don't mean to like poo-poo this, Jack, or anything, but like I have to actually see that to believe that he's going to get 10 million. You know what I mean? Like, because don't get me wrong, love the player, and like everyone's points about him is valid. Like this is a 40, 50 point regular season player.
That's Absolutely. Sam Reinhart, Vegas. That's Sam Reinhart that you're thinking of. Sorry, go ahead.
So are we going to pay him $10 million for one playoff season? And I know people get silly, teams get silly. He is 29. There's going to be some wear and tear on the body. I don't know. I see like more of an $8-9 million deal, and he could stay in Florida for that or potentially less. Like I don't know how important is money to this guy. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean he signed in Florida, so obviously it's somewhat important. Sorry, I just had to get that in. I think if he signs that deal and he's expected to be a team's 1C, I think he'll be better than he was the first time around in Calgary. But I don't think he's going to be the same guy in Florida. I think there's a lot more pressure. You're probably not playing with as much talent. It's going to be more on you instead of other guys like Kachuk and Barkov and Marchment taking that pressure off of you. So I think it's going to be tough to play that way, 82 games to justify that contract at 10 mil for however long. So it's one of those contracts where would I love the player on my team? Of course. I would love him in exactly the role he's in now. If he came here, he would not be in that role. And it just typically, it might be okay, but it won't be anything like it is in Florida. And I don't want to draft a guy because it's a copycat league. And by the time certain teams copy it and get their team up to snuff, the league's already changed again. And now you're kind of behind the 8 ball. So I think you should just focus in on who the talent, certain things you like that like are always good, skill, size if you can get it. and just get somebody who truly projection and potential for me. Who do you really believe? And you talked to Russ, what was it, last night or the night before? Mm-hmm. He only named like 3 guys that he thought could really be 1Cs, right? It was at Misa. I thought he said Misa's not a 1C.
Right.
I thought he said Hagens, Frondell, and maybe Denoye had a chance. Those were like the 3.
He said they could play 1C, but they're not.
Oh, because somebody has to kind of
right,
deal.
Because somebody has to.
Yeah. So I mean, that's still a thing too. It's almost like being a top pairing defenseman, except for you're not the number 1, you're the other guy. It's kind of like that. But like if you have a Michkov, if you get a guy you think can get the most out of those wingers, then just do it. And to me, I think there will be at least 1 or 2 1Cs that come out of this first round, because you never know later they find these diamonds in the rough. But I do think where we're picking, the guy that I think has the best chance of reaching that or their ceiling would be Hagens 1 and probably Frondell 2. And then, I'm not going to talk about Misa because he's not coming to 6 or whatever. But after that, you're really rolling the dice. And that's where I kind of got to remind myself, this isn't the best draft. So maybe some of these guys are being over-evaluated in a sense. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a cutoff. It's a tier drop-off or something. But I cannot wait for this draft. It is, the speculation is killing me from within.
Well, it'll be here before we know it. What do we have? 3 weeks left, 17 days, just over 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 2.5 weeks. Like it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into Utah a little bit, who claims that they're shopping the 4th overall pick. Not sure how serious they are. I mean, of course, a team's going to put out, hey, we're shopping this pick, but in actuality, they want, heaven and earth for the pick, So how willing are they to actually move the pick? I believe it was rumored that they were looking for a young forward, and I would assume also another first-round pick in return. But how do you feel about the Flyers, Jack? And this is one of our bigger topics of the night. Do you see a world where they move up, and do you want them to even move up?
I do. So do I see a world? Probably not. I think it's all speculation. We got excited last year. We were talking about names like Caden Lidstrom and like that, and ultimately nothing happened. We moved back a pick, but let's just play in that fantasy world. It makes perfect sense to me if a team like Utah, who likes Brady Martin, do you really see Nashville taking Brady Martin? I don't. If you are steadfast at taking a player there, and it's been rumored they don't want a Hagens because Hagens is a lot like Cooley, and they already have centers. They want to get a Brady Martin guy for the playoffs. So trade back with Philly. Philly take Hagens at 4 and let Utah take Martin at 6. And then they picked up extra assets, so it doesn't look as ridiculous. And, that's a win-win in my eyes. I don't know what you give up. I don't know if it's realistic. It shouldn't cost too much, because why not pick up some free assets if you're going to take somebody else anyway? It's going to come down to, does Utah worry that Nashville could take Martin or trade the pick back themselves? Now, when you're talking within the top 5, that's pretty rare. But, if we're going to play in this world, it is a possibility and something to think of. But I don't see enough about the Flyers being that high on Hagens that they should be in those conversations. I hope they have it under wraps, and we just don't know. But yeah, that is based on who I want and how I think the draft is going to fall, they should definitely be in the conversation with Utah if they're serious about trading that pick.
Yeah, see, okay. So I get where you're coming from, and I kind of have the opposite opinion here. Like we were just talking, there's maybe a handful of guys that you can get at 6, and I believe, this is just my opinion, they're all sort of close in talent, all similar positions, all forwards. Why would I give up anything extra to move up 2 spots? Do you know what I mean? So you can get your guy anyway, and I'd be perfectly happy if Frondell, Hagens, Martone, like any of those guys, O'Brien, were there at 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to who's your guy. Like if your guy is Hagens, you got to make that move. If it's not, then you don't have to. I'd also see what Chicago did at 3. If they take, Porter Martone, it looks like, we got a plethora of centers here. We should be fine. But if they take like Frondell or Denoye, it's like, okay, let's keep an eye here. because it might come down to Martone or O'Brien, which it's fine. But again, if you have you really like Denoyer or Frondell or Higgins, you're kissing them goodbye if Chicago goes center at that pick, and it's one of those guys, because I can't see the other two. I mean, sure, they could take Martin at 4. I don't see that happening, though. I really don't. You never know. I mean, what's his name went like 3rd overall last year? Beckett Seneca. That threw everybody for a loop, So it is possible. But sometimes it's tough to – I know a lot of GMs who do it right, like Howie Roseman, different sport, obviously. It's like, let the draft come to you. But sometimes if you really have identified a player, maybe they like Frondell more than everybody. And it's like, well, the only way you're getting them is if you go trade, you move up and get them, and there's an opportunity. Then I think you need to consider it. It also depends what's going the other way. If pick 22 is going back, I really don't like that. If it's the later first round pick or a couple of seconds, then I'm interested, because you're not making all these picks. Might as well use them for trades.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we haven't even really talked about the 2 other picks they have in the first round. They then have, I think, 3 or 4 in the second round, which down the road we'll definitely talk about those the closer we get to the draft. I'm sure you guys will talk about it during the next show. The Flyers' second pick, Jack, the 22nd overall pick. Do you have a preference there yet? Or are you still kind of?
Well, yeah, there's players I hope fall, but I don't think they're going to fall. Yeah, like obviously Carter Bear, but he could go 10, 11, 12. Cation Atchison, I think he'll go mid-teens. Cole Reshney is definitely a name popping up. Braden Coots, I would love, but these are all guys I think are going to go early to mid-teens. I don't know if somebody slips. When Paul and I did our mock draft, it got to a point where it's like right around 20, 21, 22 is where I felt like some of those names I liked were all gone. But that was us doing the draft. We like those names that I just listed. If one of those names slips, I'm all for it. That'd be great. But I think if they say they just take like O'Brien at 6, I hope that they're looking to trade up for somebody who's falling. Yeah, Blake Fiddler's another one. Like somebody who could be falling, like Lyndon Lakovic. Like he's a guy I saw when these rankings first came out draft season. He was in around 8 or 9, kind of dropped to 13, 14. If somebody took him at 9 compared to 16, could happen. Either one. But if he's starting to slip, like I think he's got the tools. Like you might want to consider trading up. And he's not even a center, so it's kind of like you're just going for skill at that point. And I'm all about that. This is the draft to do it in, because you're going to hit a point in the late first where there's a big tier drop off for me, and everybody's kind of, or you're taking what's his name, the Russian. Oh my God, Rybakin, whatever his name is. Of course, I can't speak right now. The other Russian guy who like wasn't in shape for the draft. He's going to go. He's got talent or personal issues or attitude issues and things of that nature. But he's a talent. He's a guy who slips into the second round that they can take there. But I would rather them get one of the names I said and trading up to do so if necessary, because you're going to hit this part of the draft where there's all these names that you're just like on all of them, and it happens right around 22-ish. So I'm hoping either some other teams take some names you don't expect, or somebody slips, or they're within striking distance to trade up. God forbid Roger McQueen goes into a fall. Nobody trusts the back. Nobody trusts what he said. Well, I like what Russ had to say on your show. It's like he's being honest, but he's probably not telling you everything. But he's not lying. But also he said, he's like, oh, it took me a little bit longer to warm up because I'm a bigger body. And then Russ is like, that's the first time I've ever heard a bigger body player say anything like that. He's probably covering up for his issues with his back. And then if you talk to some of our own analysts like Paul, he's not a big fan of McQueen. He actually said, he's like, and he'll probably bring this up, so I apologize for stealing his point. But he was like, I think the back injury may have saved his draft position a little bit, because I don't think he's all that good. He's just a big guy.
I wouldn't touch McQueen.
So, but what if he fell to like 14? Would you consider trading up for him? You've already drafted, say, O'Brien.
No, I wouldn't take him, and I absolutely wouldn't spend extra draft capital to move up to get him. I don't want any part of that. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. Older dude, bigger dude, didn't dominate. He's got back fracture that may never heal, or it could be, look, if you're a bigger dude and you make it to the NHL, you're going to get hit. Like the bigger you are, the harder you fall kind of thing, right? Like, especially if you're a young guy, teams know that you have potentially an injury. Not every dude in the NHL is a nice guy. There are some guys that are going to be laying the body on you to see if you can take it, to see if you can hang around, and he's got to go through 82 games of that. You're not out there against smaller competition anymore. I wouldn't touch Roger McQueen with a 10-foot pole. That's just my opinion.
What if he just fell to 22? You don't even have to trade up.
No, because the best ability is availability. If he never plays, like
we saw him off the draft board.
I don't want him. I don't want Roger McQueen. Give me a guy that you can use in the system. That's guaranteed. Well, nobody's guaranteed. Anybody can get hurt at any time, but somebody without an injury history, somebody that, hey, if he doesn't make the NHL, the Phantoms have a player. You know what I mean? Whereas Roger McQueen, not only do you have to worry about skill wise, can he play for the Flyers? Every time he hits the ice, is this going to be the day? Is this going to be the time? I don't want to worry about that. You know what I mean?
No, I understand. Definitely not at 6. For me, it was, if he fell at 22, I would definitely take him. But I understand your point. He just checks outside of the injury, obviously, so many boxes that the Flyers would be looking for: center, size, skill. It's just how much skill, really. So I don't know. We'll see. It's what they do at 6 first and foremost is most important. Then we'll go from there. I do hope they trade up for somebody. There are some really nice names there. It's just going to depend on how the rest of the draft goes. Yeah. God forbid Martin were to fall. I don't see that happening, but I know that that's the one name they'd be probably calling every pick. We're looking to trade up for this guy, but let's get it right at 6 first.
Unholy Hairdo, I think, agrees with you here. I haven't seen Unholy Hairdo in here, maybe once or twice before. So if you're new, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully we see you more often. Look, I have 2 names that I'm in love with now. Leading up to the draft, these are 2 guys that I'm hoping Flyers can somehow get. I don't think Keyshawn Aitchison will be there, but if I'm a GM, this is a guy that I got a hard on for. I got to get this guy. What's it going to take? How many seconds do you want? Do you want the 31st? I'm moving up to get him. What's it going to take? Keyshawn Aitchison is that guy for me.
Watch the Rangers take him because he's a lot like Trouba.
Yeah, and they're looking to move a defenseman, I believe, in Keandre Miller. Is that his last name?
Yeah.
So, it would make sense. And to skip over some of those teams like Pittsburgh and New York to get our guy, we get our center. Now we got a big, fun to watch top 4D, not afraid to lay the body, has a bomb from the point, it can play on the power play. We think we'll see at the NHL level. I want this guy. I need this guy. And then the other player who, is kind of following during the regular season. I think he was a little higher up on draft boards than Cole Reshny. But this is a guy I want. I think he's a guy that just has that dog in him, Jack. And
he's got a chance to slip a little bit.
Yeah, sure. That's the other guy I want. Who were we watching a couple years ago? I think it was an Oliver. Who's the guy that ended up going to Chicago the one year? We were really watching him, the center.
Oh, Oliver Moore.
Oliver Moore was the one guy, and then I don't know if it was the same draft or the next year with Gabe Perreault. New York took him. Cole Reshny is that guy for me this year. I want the Flyers to take this kid, probably middle 6 player, but it just has that dog. I don't know. I'm not going to compare him obviously to Sam Bennett or any of those guys, but I think this could be a playoff guy. He's got that dog. He's got the heart in him. May not, he doesn't have the best talent or the most talent, but what he lacks in talent, this kid will never quit. So Cole Reshny, Keyshawn Aitchison are the 2 guys I want.
We got him going 20th to Columbus. So that is definitely within striking distance. All these names I would like. I'm going to run them down for you real quick because I pulled up my list here. So let's just say I'll start with Carter Bear. So, Keyshawn, I got him going to the Rangers. And then it's Carter Bear, Jackson Smith, Braden Coots, Justin Carbonneau, Blake Fidler, Lyndon Lakovich, Colin Potter, Cole Reshny. Those are all names I would be happy with. And they're all in a row go right up until pick 20. And it's we're at 22. It's come on.
Yeah.
So there are some other names. So we're gonna, this is. I would rather them just trade up and take somebody. But if they're hoping for somebody to fall, there's a chance. But it seems like it's going to take at least 2 or 3 wild picks for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see who they wind up with.
Yeah, Reshny is a guy that I would say, like, I would wait. And if he's there at 22, I take him. Or if he's there, like in your mock draft, if he's there at 20 or 21, I would trade up and, only give, I don't know, maybe I give the last third or, a pick in the second or something like that.
It shouldn't be anything wild to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't move, whatever Minnesota moved up to get Bouillon last year with the Flyers.
Oh, it was a third rounder for like the next year.
Something like that, Whereas Aitchison, that's a guy, I'd put some chips in for Aitchison. Let's just say that. So, we'll see. We're less than 2 weeks away now, I think we said, right? Or just a little bit over 2 weeks away.
Just a little bit over 2 weeks away. Yep. So, it's the 27th, which is a Friday, is the first round. And what's today? Wednesday. So in 2 days, it'll be 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Coming up.
Man,
all right.
I can't wait.
I saw Calder Hart mentioned in the chat somewhere. He is on our thumbnail and one of our big topics. Let me get back into Twitter here because I had one of our trusty viewers here, Mr. Jonathan Nesbitt, I believe.
Oh, is he related to Jack Nesbitt, who could be the Flyers pick at 22? Big center.
That would be something, really getting the inside scoop there.
Yeah, that's who I mocked to the Flyers. I wasn't happy about it, but I could see them doing it.
So it took me into a YouTube video here, so sorry about that. Okay, so it sounds like Calder Hart's lawyers are asking for an acquittal, and from what I read is the trial's basically over, I think. Now they're waiting for the judge, or the Crown, as they call it up there, to make a decision, which I believe is going to come towards the middle or the end of July, is what I think I read. Jack, if you heard different, or if any of our Canadian buddies or anyone following the case maybe a little bit more closer than us has heard different, please feel free. But that's kind of what I heard. Middle of July, end of July, we'll hear something. Thoughts on that, Jack? Because I know everybody wants to know if things work out where these guys get off. Would you bring Calder Hart back?
I mean, I would. I don't know how the organization feels. I think Martinez had come out and said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I asked about that," and it's like, "No, fresh start." I understand that as well, especially from the player's perspective. And that's why Edmonton makes so much sense considering their need and where Calder Hart's from. And he is a completely unrestricted free agent. But if I'm the Flyers and he's like, "Hey, I just want to pick up where I left off. This is all BS. Will you have me back?" I don't know why they have to say no. Like, I understand they're trying to improve the overall look the front office and the team has had, thanks to the Dave Scott error and the Chuck Fletcher error, and even Hextall before that. But I think this is different. I think we're in a time now where if somebody's proven innocent, they're innocent. If that's the case, I don't know. This is obviously, we're in this realm if it's acquitted. So like, I don't know why you have to go elsewhere, but sometimes it just is the way it is. It's just, why don't you start fresh? We're going to start fresh. Sometimes it's on the player. Gun to my head, is he coming back to Philly if he's acquitted? No, I think he's going to sign a deal elsewhere. And I'll be shocked if it's not Edmonton, because I figure he's better than anything they have, you would assume, if he can get back up to snuff, and he won't cost much, at least not right away. So,
yeah, we'll definitely see. So this is going to come after the draft. After free agency. Explicit put in the chat there July 24th as the date. So I think most roster decisions will have been made by then. So we'll see. All we can do is continue to do what we've been doing, is sitting back and waiting. I do know that there has been contact between Hart and the team. They just kept contact throughout the last year or so, which I think we all maybe assumed. But yeah, so there is still connections there. Let's just say that.
Well, I do have an opening on my bowling team, and Carter Hart was my number one prospect. So
There you go.
I'll try. I have his number. See
There
if he
you go. Okay, we have here. So the Flyers brought in another coach here, Jay Varady rounds out Tockett's coaching staff. Jack, what do you think of Jay? I'm going to go with Jay Varady.
Yeah, I think he was only his assistant like 1 year in Vancouver or something, but I think there was a connection elsewhere. From what I understand, is he's more of an analytic guy, which is I'm okay with. I it's a nice tool. I don't think you should be married to it or build a team completely around it, but it's nice to have a different perspective, I guess you would say, in these coaching meetings. Ultimately, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I do like that. Seems more today's thinking, which is a good thing, at least I assume. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see ultimately what he brings. That's really all I got on the guy. He's not a whole lot, but I'm all for anything new that can help give you an edge over the other team or what players you should be using where. I'm all for that. So let's, roll the dice. Why not?
Yeah, bring him in.
And he's not a former Flyer. Thank God. Thank God for that.
It's weird when they bring in guys that aren't connected to the Flyers in any way. Nobody really says anything, right? Like it's kind of just ho-hum. It's only when they bring in guys that have a connection to the team where people get their feathers.
Well, my favorite was people getting upset about what's his name, the Phantoms head coach being like brought back into the fold. And it's like he's already in the organization. What are we complaining about? Yeah. He's already here. We didn't pluck him from outside. He's just hanging around till he finds a job. Like, geez, they really bang this drum hard. Like, I get it, but like every team does this. Like, just relax.
So speaking of potentially shiny and new, the RG Media came out with an article, Sergei Demidov, not so fast on Maxim Shabanov, Jack. It did seem last week that some of the reports were a little bit premature. There was really no follow-up. Flyers didn't come out with anything. There were, none of the bigger outlets here could confirm anything. And quite frankly, some of the sources from Russia couldn't confirm anything. I think there was a paper out there or a sports blog, Sport Express, came out and said that the Flyers were going to sign Maxim Shabanov. And there was a report a couple of days ago, as I mentioned, Sergei Demidov said, actually, no. The agent's going to take his time. He's going to allow the NHL draft to take place. He's going to allow NHL free agency to take place. And then he's going to see, where his player fits in. Is the team right? Is the coach right? They don't care so much about the city. As a hockey player, you can't tell me money's not a thing. I think his first contract is only going to be a year, 1 year contract, two-way due to his age. I've never heard of that rule, but that's fine. Low risk. We talked about Shabanov before, Jack. We're both in on him, but with what's developed, how is your stance now? Like the Flyers got to put a roster together. They can't wait around for Shabanov, right?
No, and I don't think they are. They probably have a good idea. They're just keeping it under wraps. It's a free asset. It's a 1 year restricted ELC basically. So I understand from the player's perspective, you want to stick in the NHL, you're probably going to want to go somewhere where you play on a good line and all the people, even if it's false, they think like, oh, wow, he's pretty good. And then you sign a deal after that. So I understand that. Philly makes a lot of sense because of Michkov alone. We're a building team. We need players. You got another player who speaks Russian. I'm sure Shabanov's English isn't very good, if at all, anything. But I understand, that's why I think Vegas makes a lot of sense for him. One, Pacific Ocean. Other than that, Russia's right there. And they're always good. So why wouldn't you want to play for a team or an organization like that? Pittsburgh name had been dropped. Well, playing with Sidney Crosby might do things for you. So it makes a whole lot of sense. Now, the premature reports, it makes a lot. It does seem like he's going to come to Philly. Some Russian outlets have reported that. My understanding, it seems like one of those he may have let it slip that he's leaning Philly, and maybe because there was a couple of days there where it was like, oh, he's coming to Philly, and then all of a sudden there was like a back off. Well, that's probably the agent coming in and be like, stop, just don't kill your leverage here or anything. Just wait it out, And he's also considering going back to the KHL because they came pretty close to winning the whole thing. But this is probably his best chance to jump to the NHL. Teams are interested. Like I don't think he's going back to the KHL. Like what your career can only be so long. I know he's not old, but still, like, what if you get injured next year? Or you have a bad year or something? No, just take the jump now. So I'm not surprised that certain outlets try to jump on that, try to be the first ones. It sounds like he's coming over. Something similar happened with Michkov. Russian outlets were saying that he'll be with the Flyers next year, and he was, so it's like, well, yeah, I'll say my sources told me that he's coming over early, and now he's or coming to the Flyers rather, and it's like now he's not. Now you look kind of silly. It's like, yeah, it's because he might be leaning that way, but nothing's official, nothing signed, no contract, no nothing. And that's why we always wait for the legitimate sources to tell us what's happening. And it sounds like we're going to be waiting till the way it was reported was after the draft, which is fine. But then it also said after free agency. I'm like, well, when's that? Like August? Like, I hope it's not like, I hope it's like July 6th or something. I understand July 1 and 2 is crazy. I hope it's not. I just hope it's sooner rather than later. But it does sound like we're going to be waiting a little bit. So, I guess we'll just cool our jets and hope those reports are right.
Yeah, we'll see. Something else to look forward to, I guess. Draft, free agency, Shabanov. Or is it Shabanov?
Whatever we think it is, it's wrong because apparently we've been saying Russian names wrong the whole time. It's not even technically. It's not even Sergei Fedorov. It's probably Fedorov, and they just don't say anything. Now they're starting to say stuff, so it's a shame because Fedorov sounds awesome. But so I guess we'll see. And Briere's in line without making any trades. Well, unless he makes trades in the draft, to have a hell of an offseason. If he were to bring in a player of that caliber and kill the draft, like grab a Higgins or a Martone or an O'Brien, and then later in the draft, get like a Kolresny or somebody that's falling that we like, and just grab some other nice diamonds in the rough with all the picks he has and move up the board. He'll enter like mid-July and be like, damn, he hasn't done anything in free agency, and we've already killed the draft, and we've got this number one highly rated free agent from Russia. I mean, what more could you ask for in a season where they want to turn the corner, but we all know that 2026, that's the year that they're really going to start adding and actually spending money and whatnot. Not saying that trades or offer sheets still won't be a thing. And I think if he were to kill the draft, grab a Shabanov in a free deal like that, that makes trading a winger, maybe a Brink, maybe somebody else, much more attainable and potential offer sheets. And if it's not an offer sheet, maybe it's like the threat of an offer sheet leads to a trade with another team, and all these centers that we've been mentioning, whether it's Zegras or McTavish or any of these guys, and then the other available players. I'm not sure if they're even in on a Jason Robertson or something like that, but you'll start to clear the fog a little bit what they could potentially be in on and what they could do, and hopefully he gets creative. Of the last couple of GMs we have, creativity has not been in the wheelhouse. Briere has been creative. Maybe nothing wild, but he has definitely been creative. So I have high hopes, and I have confidence. I do have confidence. And again, it's another big one for Brent Flair as well. So ultimately, I don't want to say they're pushing all the chips in, but they're pushing an awful lot of chips in. So it's lining up to be a really fun draft and off season, even if they're not signing anybody. I mean, that would be the ultimate, cherry on top. But this is the base. This year is the base.
Book it, Jamal.
Yeah, well, you're going to see July 1 if he signs an extension. If they win the cup, he's signing an extension. If they don't, I'll give it a 5% chance he could hit free agency, or at least not. No, I wouldn't say that. At least not sign an extension right away. I'll say that. So cheer for Florida if you want McDavid.
I think I might be already. And you know why? Like, I wanted to root for Edmonton, just because Florida won last year, and you want the best player in the league, I think, to win a Stanley Cup just to see that happen. But Sam Bennett, man, he's just playing so good. Deserves
doing
a
it
cup.
for Bennett, huh? Are you
deserves Conn Smythe? Maybe McDavid hits free agency because of Sam Bennett, and then McDavid signs with us, and we owe everything to Sam Bennett. Is how it's going to play out.
well,
All the Stanley Cups we're going to win.
That would be something. Jim, don't even go down this road. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
McDavid,
so disappointed.
Michkov.
Oh my God.
And then one day we're going to look back and remember that Conn Smythe playoff?
It'll be a
Sam Bennett had.
It'll be a trivia question. What was the reason?
We really do owe it all to him.
Oh my God.
All right, let's see what we have left on our topic list. All right, so let's go from one Russian to another. Matvei Michkov, Jack, finished fourth in Calder voting, did not receive any first place votes. I don't believe received any second place votes either, if I recall.
Hold on, I'm going to pull it up.
Finished just ahead
so
of
he had
Flyer.
The former sorry, I almost said a bad word. There you go. I almost said a bad word.
Guy can't even show up to draft camp.
So Michkov had 0 first round votes. First round. I'm so ready for the draft. First whatever votes. First place. Thank you. First place votes. Second, 8 second place.
Okay,
oh
so
my God.
Second place votes. Okay.
I'm done. 26 third place votes, 151 fourth place votes, and 6 fifth place votes. Why are we talking about this? We knew it was going to be Lane Hudson winning it. They have Dustin Wolf second, Macklin Salabrini third, Michkov fourth. They have Cutter Gauthier fifth. Cutter Gauthier, it looks like he had 6 fourth place votes. Is that it? And then 74 fifth place votes.
I mean, he did improve as the season went on.
Yeah,
but it is kind of
he beat out Will Smith.
Him.
He beat out Will Smith and Logan Stankoven. Logan Stankoven was an early favorite. He got off to a good start, but he didn't even finish on the same team. So, I just don't like seeing his name so close to Michkov's there. But yeah, I mean, nobody else got a second place vote. If this is correct,
look, this is how it was going to go. Like we could all see that coming, right? Hudson was going to win. It's from Montreal. They're up there, pounding their chest. Oh, historic season, yada yada. And it's like, all right, points wise, sure.
should have been. He should have. I didn't think Michkov was going to win. He should have been second. Well, he really should have been second. Like Dustin Wolf was phenomenal, but the team didn't make the playoffs. That's huge. Look at Rowinski. Rowinski got beat out by Cale Makar for the Norris, and that's fine. I have no issues with that. Had Columbus made the playoffs, I think Rowinski should have won the Norris because when he's on the ice, the team's actually good. Like you talk about a player, you talk about a player impacting their team. Like Rowinski impacted Columbus way more than Makar impacted Colorado. Because without Makar, Colorado is still making the playoffs. Yes, they're not a cup contender. They're still making the playoffs. Without Rowinski, Columbus is drafting top 5. Like he was phenomenal for them this year. So I look at that, and had Wolf got Calgary to the finals, to the playoffs, I would be more okay with him being second here. But since he didn't, I have Michkov above Celebrini. Like, and maybe that's my homerism. I don't know, but he led our team in goals. He dealt with torts. He had plenty of assists. He was a gamer. He's a killer. But again, let it fuel him. I don't care. You look at the numbers and you just kind of roll your eyes and laugh, but let it fuel him into next season because we have players like Owen Tippett in our exit interview who the previous year had almost 30 goals. He has 20 goals barely this year, 0 power play goals, saying he thinks he had a good season, took 100 less shots. Then you have a rookie like Michkov coming in saying, I should have been better. He's a rookie, doesn't speak English, led the team in goals, had 63 points, saying, I should have had a better season. That mentality is why he's my favorite Flyer and will be until he retires. Like, I love that. That is a Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan mentality. I want to be the best. I believe I can be the best. You say I had a good season? Bullshit. I should have been better. And that's why him coming fourth in this Calder voting, how he's going to be a force next year and going forward. And people think this is a negative, and it irks me. It's not. It's only going to fuel the kid.
I'm convinced that the people that vote don't actually watch
Oh yeah,
all
guaranteed.
the players.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Absolutely,
all year long, I heard about Macklin Celebrini just as much as I heard about Matvey Michkov, and he's all the way out west. That's usually not the case with West Coast players out east. Like I heard Celebrini every other night, whether it was. Give me 1 second. Let me just finish the
Go ahead.
one
Go
here.
ahead.
Like I heard Celebrini's name on whatever the hell it is, the Hockey Network, NHL Network. I heard him on ESPN. They were talking him up every other night, and it's like, you know, Michkov's got the same amount of points as this kid. I think there was also maybe some recency bias, being that Celebrini was the first overall pick last year, and Michkov came over a year later. So, and it's like they're going to talk up the Canadian kid, they're going to talk up the American kid before they talk up the Russian kid. And look, let's not also forget he plays in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
There was a lot of factors acting against him.
And then you have Montreal, right? You have Lane Hudson, who was like the golden boy this year, and he put up 60 plus assists, I think. So that's eye popping. You know, all year long, it was going to be Lane Hudson unless something tragic happened, and he missed out on the points wise. But anytime you have a defenseman, I think lead all rookies in points, it's going to be tough to beat that. You know.
Yeah, even if he's like, giving up plenty of goals when he's on the ice. But like, I feel like I'm one of the only people who like look at that stat. But I still think he should have won. That's like ridiculous numbers. So I'm okay with that. It's fine. And he's Canadian. They weren't playing for much else. I guess they were playing for
that. That's what I kind of mean. Like with the media stuff, like you hear a name all the time, like Celebrini. Hudson obviously had the numbers, but I think to put Celebrini in front of Michkov kind of lends credence to the popularity kind of thing. Is I
they're
guess
going to say they're going to say it's the injury. Well, he played less games, but I think if you broke down the time on ice, Michkov was more productive. It was close, right. But he was still more productive. But sure. Yeah, he was hurt or whatever. Yeah, whatever. But like, who said it? Hold on. Benit, interesting that Quitter Gauthier had 6 fourth place votes, and Michkov got 6 fifth place votes. Did 6 voters have Quitter ahead of Michkov? Is that what that means? There's no way, right? Yeah, how could you put Gauthier ahead of Michkov in your voting?
Yeah, that's what that means. Mm-hmm.
How? He's beat him in every statistical category. Is that just haters?
I don't know how many teams get voters. Like, let's say Anaheim has 2 or 3 credentialed people voting. I'm not sure how it works. But you could assume that if Anaheim had 2 or 3 credentialed reporters for who does this voting, I think it's safe to assume that they would pick Gauthier over.
Yeah, so we'll say 1 or 2 for Anaheim, but like, who the hell were the other teams? What, Pitt? Rangers?
Look, you hate to say it, right? Because you think that there's some integrity into this stuff, but a lot of these guys are friends. You know what I mean? And they talk.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So sad. They're so pathetic, man. I'm tired. It goes back to, and it was probably before we were podcasting. Remember the year we made the playoffs? We had to play the Rangers at the end of the year, and Drew had a hat trick. I think that was like 2017-ish. And I remember it was the year that Drew he probably could have had a good chance at winning the MVP, the Hart Trophy, but wasn't even a finalist. And one of the things that one of the voters said was, well, the Flyers had a 10-game losing streak, and I just can't vote for a captain that let his team go through a 10-game losing streak. I'm like, what? Like, first off, they had a 10-game winning streak. In the game that mattered the most to make the playoffs, he scores a hat trick, and they do make the playoffs, and you still find a BS reason not to vote for him? I was like, they're so jaded that the reasons they use to not vote for somebody are downright stupid and embarrassing. And it's like, I almost want to throw the awards out altogether, but they're too much fun. But some of the voting and how it goes down is just like, this is just stupid. Why do writers and why they're so jaded by their own team? Why do they get a vote? But then who does do the votes? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you beat it out, but it's so obvious. It's embarrassing. It's just stupid.
Yeah. It's I almost wish it was just left up to the players to vote. Like, why is it left up to reporters? You know what I mean? Like,
I would take players over the reporters.
let the players vote on the players awards. Wouldn't that make more sense?
I guess. I don't know what the reasoning is because they're so jaded. Players aren't typically jaded because they're all kind of friends with each other. Sure, there's going to be some here and there. You can't help that. But these writers and team guys covering these teams, my God, like, what are they watching?
Yeah, and Def Digit mentioned you can see who voted for what. You can.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can. How do you look that up? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's out there. It might even be on the NHL site.
That's probably a newer thing, right? Because people were so furious that they want people to. Yeah, you're right. Because the MLB did that when somebody ranked Zach Wheeler as like the 5th. He should have like been 1 or 2 for the Cy Young, and he was 5th. And they like everybody on Twitter like called the guy out, like, "Are you stupid or something?" So like you definitely can.
Yeah,
I gotta look for that as soon as we're done. I gotta look that up.
Well, good news because I think, and we can touch on real quick. Flyers did not offer contracts to 3 players: Brian Zanetti, Mateo Mann, and Carter Southern. I was a little bit surprised for Carter Southern, but those 3 guys, as of I think last week,
maybe
this week.
I would say last week or even later. But yeah, the only one that surprised me about that was Southern. I thought he had a chance, showing some things, but my hope is they're clearing out contracts because they are planning on bringing some contracts in.
Yep, that's unfortunately or fortunately, unfortunately for the players, that's how it works. I think Carter Southern won like some defenseman awards this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they let him go. Maybe, I don't know. That's a weird one. But Mateo Mann was like, he was really bad. He was like a 7th round pick, tall guy, like 6 something. And yeah, I heard right from the get-go he just was not worth a thing.
He took a shot, and
Zanetti was like a kind of a journeyman for the AHL, I believe. So whatever. I don't think any of them were going to be anything ever. So
no, Phantom's depth or whatever. So yeah, that's I think the end of our pertinent topics list for tonight. I know we filled up a lot of the show with draft talk, and we're probably going to do that a lot leading up to the draft on Friday, the 27th of June. So 16 days away. A lot of draft talk ramping up, and we got you covered here. Jack, will you be recording this week?
Not this week, which I'm glad you had your interview with Russ. But next week, we plan on having at least 2 more shows. We want to finish out our rankings into the second round, at least to where the Flyers pick. And then we'll do a final mock draft leading up until the draft. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that'll be huge. And make sure you guys check that out. A lot, we're all focusing on the first round, especially in the early first round, as fans tend to do. But the Flyers have 4 picks in the second round. And I think at least 3 of them, if not all 4, are pretty early in the second round. There are some names there. You're going to want to tune in to see who the Flyers could potentially snag. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for the end of our episode this week. We will have this out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I want to apologize again. I couldn't believe I did that. But unfortunately, things happen. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Old names and new names. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe and help us on our quest we're going for 5,000 YouTube subscribers. Last I saw, I think we were at 1180 or 1190, something like that. So we're really climbing up in the subscriber number pretty quick there. Maybe we can hit 5,000 subscribers, I don't know, by the end of next season, this time next year. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So
hey, I love the comments. You got some great comments, some great questions. Vineet, I think I went to you like 4 times this podcast. So thank you very much. Keep the good content. At least we have an educated chat. I appreciate that. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it helps us make up for the uneducation. So it kind of balances out there. So yeah, go ahead and leave us a like and a comment, guys, for us on YouTube. Helps with the algorithm. Make sure you give us a listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you listen to us as a podcast, you could set alerts so you're first to know when we drop a new show. For all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, you can head over to hwhockey.net. I'll be updating the site tonight, so there will be some new stuff on there for anyone that still goes to the site. We thank you for that. That's going to do it for Jack. I'm Jim. Don't forget to keep it high, keep it wide, and we'll see you next time on HW Hockey. Bye-bye.